Oh, I told Pete. Pete's on.
Okay. I'm glad I did that. At first I was feeling bad, but now I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to stay on that because they're gonna need different things at different times. Like,
Yeah.
that's it.
No, I know it. If I spit 5 good hot lines, they'll get on it.
Yeah.
And your boy can really rap. How old is he? He said he's 7th, 8th grade?
Yeah, something like that. I think it was Jefferson.
It's so funny that over the years, so many kids tell me I want to rap. Who's the music teacher?
Sean, careful. He'll be here at some point this week. Okay. Question for you. I've been dealing with this Tuesday, and I got a fulfillment call, but it's still like once a day or so. We'll like just like not woke up Thursday. Dennis can get me at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Can you start camp without me tomorrow? You sure? Because I can take more payment.
No.
Figure it out.
Just send me what you want to do, and we'll be back. Because 9 to 10, you get the panel.
Yeah. Well, 9 to 10, and then 10 is supposed to be another just sort of demo thing, like we did today.
So the difference is,
Yeah. I'm thinking we probably just want to rap freestyle. You know that.
Yeah.
That's forward to for that. So if you want to do freestyle 9 to 10, and then 10 to 11, we could do have people share where they are on there and give some feedback and give some ideas and things.
I don't think it would be very difficult to achieve.
Yeah.
Rotate areas of the
Or you could say that for 10, if you'd rather.
No,
do that.
I'm going to do that at 10, so when people see that.
Okay, you want to do one more rep at 10?
Yeah. So we have to do one more.
Yeah, probably. Sure. Yeah, and the idea, we just need to produce more too. They just need to kind of get some stuff out. But then if you want to do one more rep at 10, because you've got that solid. And
yeah, I mean, would you mind if it was kind of like, all right, regular work, we could use the Nebo, the fishbowl, they're working?
sure. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna call that.
All right, do you think?
You have an iPhone?
Yes. Go ahead. You need the airdrop?
No, I think I should be good.
I said, just warning, I'm just iPhone.
Make sure you have it.
Do you have HDMI? Y'all have HDMI. What kind of input y'all got? Do you have HDMI input? Do you got the adapter for USB-C? Oh, we got it. I forgot we got USB-C. Okay, so just when y'all come in, just hook up to USB-C when we project on this.
I just texted you a link.
All right. Got it.
Sweet.
Anybody know how to turn the projector screen on? Is it over there? I didn't think I was smart until grown folks and PhDs pull up and know how to handle this. I mean, it's real though. What you say? Oh, you gotta plug it in. Oh, you got it. Hey. Oh, you need to, be in there. So yours works the way it's supposed to work. CSU junior. Rising senior. I have a theory better for black folks to stay in school. That's just my theory.
Ideally,
It's like, everyone was rich people when you graduated high school, but us,
and then Friday, we got to practice and at some point, we were on to
was that racist? What the Zoom was on?
sound check, warm up. So Friday was super chill.
Yes, I mean.
I just speak in my trip, I was like, okay, racist.
Practice.
I remade mine.
You did? Okay, we're gonna have more sharing time later, so you're definitely gonna get a chance to play. You got a Ron Brown save?
Totally fine for that, like, you don't know what's happening. Sure. No, you have to lose
Hey, that's when you need to go. Go to New York.
Take advantage of the fact
Listen
that,
to their groups. When I was in that studio, they doing stuff like taking 90s hip hop songs and making like drill beats with them. You know what I'm saying? They doing all kind of nuts stuff.
Yeah, well, just like I am Marshall.
So are you YouTube?
Yep.
And you drop them to YouTube?
Yep. Well, I was gonna wait until they pop in because I know you did that before.
They all pop in at the very last second. And that's the way chat works.
You don't see it
You
until
don't see it unless you're in the room, so you have to chat it once they're.
So that's why I didn't say that. I'm ready to the translation. Let us know when we get to the part where you want the lights off.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do kind of dramatic lighting.
Yeah, but not yet though.
Yeah, time. Okay. I am gonna, so I just confirmed the appointment tomorrow. So I'll be here soon. Appreciate you like that.
D'Angelo, team building, around freestyle, work time, 10 o'clock. I did it wrong. D'Angelo, team building, did work time, no more at freestyle. And by the time you was back.
Also, something to think about is that we need to at some point, preferably like tomorrow lunchtime, we need to finalize like, okay, so what are the plans? Yeah, that's a good point. That's another thing.
Oh yeah.
And start making bits from that. And actually also, we should have D'Angelo.
This will say you that too. Yeah.
Oh, it's a big for yes. Yeah.
All right.
But she needs to come over first, no problem.
Okay.
Well, we can charge it up while she's wait.
I think it sounds good.
Hello, bring everybody back. There's a new YouTuber.
I did it. I wrapped it.
We're not quite there.
Awesome.
Oh, they're coming.
There's still a couple more coming too. There should be 3 in the call. Tomorrow, yeah, I'm gonna go.
Okay, cool.
The media are coming out for whatever call is going to
It goes so hard.
Alicia.
I'll probably have it done by tomorrow. It might be done by tomorrow.
Yeah, I really enjoy it.
Hey, how are you?
So, and on schedule, that is appointment. I got a great replacement.
You have to be able to see. I can talk over the fence. Yeah, we should have. It is because either app has something. So it's like,
We're not doing this. Today was 3 hours. But yeah, it wakes you up in the city. I'm sorry, they got me in
I don't understand.
I don't know.
If I'm the only one who doesn't understand, I'm okay with that. But I need y'all to figure that out.
Honestly,
All right, we have everybody.
Yeah, you're not
Ready for
yeah.
we started?
I believe so.
Hey,
All right. That's what I hope. That's really what I hope. So the new YouTube link is in there. We're getting the YouTube live starting here in a second. And I'm gonna make some introductions. And with that said, I think I'm gonna set this here. So y'all can certain more of the room. So, okay. We're good? All right. YouTube is live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the group session for the afternoon for ISYM Hip Hop Camp. And give yourselves a round of applause. All right. Sorry. If there's one thing I thought I'd never hear is me being not loud enough. Nuts. So anyway, so for the folks on the Zoom, here we go. So we just gave our students a round of applause. They were impressive. I have a question. Is anybody so bold enough but to rap something for our observers? Just a little something.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Go on. Come on. That's fine. Come on. I just want to hear a little something. I just want them to see what we're doing. Because they only see in certain parts. You know what I mean? So I want them to see a teensy little bit of what happened while they were at lunch or at home doing the laundry, walking the dog. All right. So just spit a little something. You mean it's snap? Hey.
Put me on body. Put me on body, you know you don't. Put me on body. You must believe you know you don't. I'm talking about it. You must believe you know you don't.
So I was pressing that, but like, yo, I was really impressed by everybody that got up here and played something like, I can't believe it's somebody this day one. So, all right, so it's just a little past 1:30. We're gonna have some panel discussion, yes. So I'm gonna introduce them and get out of the way. But today we have for you two ISYM hip hop camp vets. This first young lady who likes to gas when we tell her it's been 5 years since her first year is a rising senior. Is Tennessee State? Tennessee State University, one of our great HBCUs, and you're majoring in?
Commercial music technology emphasis.
Commercial music technology and emphasis. I'm proud to have been her instructor here at Hip Hop Camp. I also had a chance to speak with some of her classes at Tennessee State. But please welcome to the stage and to the panel discussion to discuss where she is in her career, her experience with music, and with ISYM Hip Hop Camp. Give it up for Alicia Stone.
I don't like stuff, but I definitely.
Trust me, they gotta hear you.
I know. Again, I'm Alicia Stone. I'm originally from here, so this is nothing new. I'm from Savannah, born and raised, went through the whole district. And then, like you said, I attended Tennessee State University in Nashville, Tennessee. So I don't live here anymore, but it's okay. That's a little bit about myself. I grew up in music. Music is all I know, mostly. Grew up in church, singing in choirs, having to sing solos because you were voluntold instead of, can you sing a solo? No, you're singing the solo. So I started out as a vocalist, sung my whole life. So singing church, got into band in middle school, and then choir, back to choir in high school. I picked up producing when I was about 14, I want to say, so to give a glimpse, probably like freshman year of high school. But I really got started doing beats when we had an after school program in Splash, and they talked about GarageBand, and I played with loops until I couldn't do it no more, and then somebody finally gave me a dog, and it just went up from there. So, really, with producing, that's not always what I wanted to do. I wanted to be, an athlete. As you can see, I'm really tall, so like I played basketball, volleyball. I thought I was gonna go to college and play ball, but one summer, we had Mother Nature here about 2-3 years ago. They had held out Miss Education and Hip Hop. That's when I first met Lauren, actually, and they had a whole week just vibing and everything. And I felt all of that. And I said, you know what? That's what I want to do for my career. So that's when I changed my priorities and wanted to become a music major, really because I wanted to keep going to school. So at Tennessee State, as Lamont said, that is a historically Black college and university. It was founded on June 19th, 1912. For just a little back check. It's an experience because living in Champaign and being in it's a campus town. I kind of already knew the vibe of the college experience, but personally, I wanted to be around people that looked like me and that were like-minded like me, and so I definitely wanted that experience in culture. So I was immediately immersed in the first week I got there. And it's definitely an experience worthwhile, and I'm definitely advocate for HBCUs. So, also, another fact, I'm also a proud member of the baddest sorority in the land. But it is a Divine Nine sorority, the Sigma Gamma Rho sorority incorporated. I just got inducted this year. So that's another little fact about it. So what I'm gonna talk about today is sampling a little bit. So I did I was also looking over this, I did a track for a beat contest, and it was a sample. This track that I'm about to play you guys, and we're just gonna listen to it. And I'm going to show you how I broke my process down on how to sample, where to look, and how to build after you figure out your sample stuff. So I'm going to play the original, and then I'm going to tell you my process.
Amtrak. Whether you're exploring a college campus, visiting family and friends, craving the excitement of the big city, or looking for a small town adventure, Amtrak.
Beautiful. I know. It's 1 out of 2. Listen, but they gotta get their money somehow, so I'm not asking. SoundCloud ads? Oh yeah. They saw a lot more people were using sound content. Let's use advertisements to make money from a free music platform.
I know if you're in here and you're in high school, you're thinking, music business isn't for me. If you like money in your pocket, music business is for everybody.
Yes, this is kind of why I advocate going to school and continuing. I know I like understanding like going to school for music can be intimidating because you think it's all just, oh, I gotta play Handel and Mozart, you know. If you look at the right program and if you look at the right program and do your research, knowing the music business is literally the foundation if you want to be anything. A producer, engineer, an artist, if you want to be a manager, an A&R, music supervisor, anything like that, that is the foundation. You can play chords, you can you can beat make all day, but if you do not know nothing about the business, you will get exploited and just walked all over. So I do advocate on continuing education to learn this business. So we're gonna unmute now. So this is the original. Okay, so I didn't want to play all of it, but you get the gist, you get the vibe. So, something that I want to point out when I listen to samples and when I know I need to chop something, I listen for the big themes in whatever I'm listening to. So, in the beginning, what was the prominent instrument that you heard, if you remember? Like, what was it? Yeah. No? Okay. So if I go back, all you hear is just, if I go back to the beginning, you hear the piano. The piano sounds grungy, sounds old, so it already has a character of its own. The thing with sampling is you have to, you can't just copy and paste it. You can't. If you're chopping it, you literally have to make it your own character. It's like writing it all over again.
Does that go for loops too?
It does. It does. Like if you love a loop and it was made to be used, like straight up, you can make it its own character by the color you put with it. So like say it's a track, just putting slight reverb is a character. Just putting a little, filter on it, a little character, making it drop just a little bit, it's character. Like just doing little stuff to it, it brings a character and you're not just happy.
So show us.
Yeah, so I listen for the big things, and that's usually how I get going.
Hey, what time did you like look? I know I do.
So I use, for my producers out there, I use prominently FL Studio. And one thing I want to say with the chopping, I knew it was a lot when I listened to it. I was like, okay, this is a whole beat. But with the package, when it was time to do because it was a beat contest, you were able to get the stems. So I literally was like, I think I'm only gonna work with the piano because it's a lot to work with. So that's what I did. I took the piano alone, and we can go to the sampler. So when you look at a sampler, it's not chopped up like this usually. It's usually just the waveform alone. So what I do is, they already gave me the BPM, which is the tempo of the song. So what I did was, I imported into my sampler, made sure that it recognized the tempo so it can line up on my keyboard the way I needed to.
The slices come with FL or just buy it separate?
No, this comes with it. So I have to make these little markers here. It aligns with the beat of the song. So automatically, because I told the sampler that it's 85 beats per minute, then it's like, okay, I'm going to align it according to that tempo. So learning from Lamont and my other inspiration for sampling, J Dilla, I'm sorry, you taught me how to sample. So with Lawrence teaching me how to sample and hearing how to have character with sampling, how I said I emphasize on the theme. I picked the most important parts of the sample. So the hits of the chord is sometimes the most important. So I hit like the beginning of the chord, maybe in the middle of another. But it's also to make it to something that it's not. You can still keep it in the key if you want it. You can make it higher or lower. I decided to keep it. So you heard the original piano, but this is how I chopped the first part. So automatically it's a different character. When you heard it the first time, it's already a vibe thing. So it sounds like a chop, but I made it seamless to where it doesn't sound too robotic. And so I got the most prominent parts. So with that, got the hits. I'm like, okay, I have a little template now. So what do I do? So I wanted to use more from the beat. So I used the little FX they had in the beginning, in the background, and then they had a vocal in there at the end, and I made it go along with my shot. You hear it? So that is also the same thing with this piano, vocals, just chopping, really. So now, get into the
bag, Sean.
Huh?
You was in your bag.
So when I told you my background with church and I'm singing, that's how I approach my beat making. I'm also just a musician, so like drums, guitar, bass, I do that. So I sing everything that I hear. So when I play this, I usually beatbox or just not on my desk. So like just seeing if I like the vibe, if it needs to be something else. So what I did for those drums, I kept it simple with how I programmed them. So it's just as the intro. Then the kick comes in. So how I program just stop. With the drums, and this is a quick tidbit as well with sampling. Please don't drown. Don't drown your samples with drums. Like, it's very tempting, but silence is the best noise. It really is. Silence can be the best noise. So when I dropped out these drums right here, it made a more emphasis to the next part of the phrase. So, don't do too much if you don't want to. But I personally love drums. I play the snare, so it's kind of just a thing. This is one of the So with regular programming, try to have dimension. It's very hard to not sound the same throughout the whole beat. That's why there are two different chops in here. So you have the first chop, which is this one. So it goes from that to cheat. I don't want to say I cheat, but when you understand that you don't always have to do everything, you can use others to help you. I get a lot of my sounds, I pay for them, and they're exclusively, like, I have the license to use them. So I utilize cymatics whenever they drop something, because it'd be free, and people just like, oh, you're cheating. I'm like, bro, if you manipulate your sound and keep your character, no one will notice. It's because people use it in the same way that it becomes redundant. So,
like, you know, like, someone says it real quick, you was nuts. I can't believe, it's probably a good thing we're at this point.
yeah.
Right? We're pedagogizing what we do.
Whoa, everybody.
Listen to the experts, don't listen to the internet. I'm gonna say it again. Listen to the experts, don't listen to the internet.
That's a good place. Because the internet is loud doesn't mean they're right. Anybody, like, you can be the loudest in the room, does not mean that you're correct. That doesn't mean, you know, don't dismiss their wisdom. But if you can tell that their wisdom is off, please do it on your own. Find your research, or just go to people that have the wisdom. But, you know, that's just what I did. So, I told you about the character, told you about my beat, my drum programming, but something that I really want to emphasize that I use to this day is ear candy. Literally, I'm telling you, like, I'm regurgitating everything you gave me. So, ear candy, I have stuck with that since Lamont said it. Ear candy is something that's like kind of in the background, but it can be high, low, but it's something real sweet to just tamper over the beat. It's already full. Y'all didn't even hear the bass yet. So, like, I just put a bell over it. But the ear candy, it literally is what it is. When you put it in your earphones and it comes out of nowhere, you're like, ooh, that was kind of sweet. I like that. But you don't need to oversaturate it because then it becomes redundant. So I'm gonna close up. Y'all get FX, you know, risers and crashes. It's just to introduce a phrase. That's all. There's no need to explain on that. And the bass is my favorite part. Sometimes I get carried away. But the bass is my favorite part because I sing everything. But so just to close, and I'll play the whole thing. With samples, recognize the character, the theme when you first hear it. See what you can do to make it your own already. Like, start mapping out once you hear the sample. And when you get into a sampler, and you start chopping, hit the major parts, the hits of every chord. Maybe a different key change happens, or there's a little ooh and ah you like in a vocal sample. Hit those, and if you hear something like weird, but you like it, use it. The most weirdest things make a song pop.
I got a quick question before you play the whole thing. So just to tie it back to this one.
Yeah.
Because you jumped up a bunch of levels, right? There's a bunch of stuff in here.
Yeah.
Can you show us the 8 bars you started?
The 8 bars, yes. So the 8 bars I started with was right here.
The last 17.
So the first 8 bars I had was this. Now y'all gonna hear the bass now. So this was the first 8 bars.
drop your stuff after one instead of before the one, so nasty.
It's such a simple concept.
Because it's that base freak one that drops out.
It makes so much sense. When you drop something out, like, does anybody go to church? Like, okay. So you know when you hear choirs and they cut the music off, how, like, when they say they got the choir singing, they cut the music off, and it's just the vocals, and how it emphasizes everything that they're singing. Like, all the choir can be singing 3 different parts, and because the music is out, it's like, the crowd be, sing, y'all! It's the same concept. When you drop something out, it brings the other flavors out. It really does. It can be good or bad. It really could. But, so I know it was a lot if you're not experienced with it, but the thing I can say if you're not experienced, just explore. There's nothing wrong with exploring, and always be a student. Always. You're never too old to learn, and you can never be too young to have too much wisdom either. Because a lot of people can look over you and you have a lot of wisdom and you're young. But hold on to that and keep going. And so I'll play the whole thing and then I'll be out so you can hear the whole shebang, I guess.
Hey, give it up for Alicia.
Oh, you had a question or you gonna talk to the computer? What was the question? Somebody had a question in the chat. Oh, okay, cool. All right, first of all, give it up one more time for Alicia Stone. It's crazy because, and this is why I teach, right? Because you talk about all the stuff you did on there that I taught you. I'm tutoring Mario right now, and he was an FL, which is not my native dog. So we be Googling stuff, trying to figure stuff out. I just learned a bunch of stuff from you based on what I taught you, you know what I'm saying? So that's how it's supposed to go. So I'm really excited about that. So, and that's awesome. That's a hip hop kid veteran. She sat in y'all seat 5 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Now not only is she about to graduate, but she's about to make money from her craft. Ultimately, like as much fun as we're having, I wouldn't be doing this if you couldn't make a career out of this, right?
Make your money.
You know what I'm saying? So, all right. So next up, we have another veteran of the first year of ISYM Hip Hop Camp, another homegrown young lady who is an artist, an amazing engineer. She graduated last year from Full Sail University in Florida, 2020. She's making bread. If you need your vocals done, she'll pull up on you. You know what I'm saying? For the right price. You know what I mean? So it's really exciting when, you know, it's almost weird. It's like, dude, you taught us this, you taught us that. I can't take credit for none of this. I just showed up and shared what I know, and then they came, and the next thing you know, they're giving back. So it's wonderful to have this young lady. Oh, and you got your whole Pro Tools session? Oh, it's about to be one. Okay. So y'all please give it up for Tiana.
What up, y'all? Yep, as you said, my name is Tiana. That's my government though. Please call me TCL, please T. I did go to school at Full Sail. It's very notable for production and many other things. It's really good for animation and for film and a whole bunch of other things, which was super cool because, you know, you get to find your people. Everyone just wants to be creative. And I really wish that we could have had the other camps here with us this week because that would have been a great comparison. Everyone is just here doing their own creative thing, you know, sharing tidbits, blah, blah, blah. But essentially, yes, my name is T. Steele. I am a mix engineer, a master engineer, and a vocalist and recording artist as well. I mix and master all of my own stuff because I guess you could chop it down to control issues and wanting things to be done faster and not having to explain things to people. But because it is so fun to map things out and to have it done the way you want it done. The song I have thrown up here is December, a track that I made with one of my homies at said university. Shout out Zach Lovis. This is one of my favorite tracks. One thing that you will know about me off rip, if you know anything about me and the music I make, is that it is thick in vocals. I stack when it comes to my vocals. I learned that from likes of, I guess, popular comparisons could be Ariana Grande and other people like that that like to keep their background really fun and full. Another thing to jump onto is Elatia's explanation of being in choir. That is another thing that my ear is always constantly listening to and listening for is harmonies, melodies, all that good stuff. And so what I will do for us now, before we hop into the session, is I'm going to assume most of you haven't heard the track. I'm going to run it so we can do a better dissection and get into the goodness of everything in here. But I will give a quick disclaimer. There's one or two cuss words in there. But it is all good.
You promise not to listen to this.
Okay, cool, yeah, just pretend that it's not happening. Just remove yourself from reality when that song, when that lyric comes, and then you're good. Okay. Oh, and that background, that's a bunch of my homies that I made music with in a group called Toxic Boys. There we go. Alright, cool.
Twisting, turning, yeah, I find my motives changing this time. There's no turning us in around and ask ourselves why. The hands keep shaking.
Thank you. So I guess first thing I will point out to piggyback off of what our Queen Elisha was telling us. So she has to map out her drums and her sampling. As someone who is doing literally like everything all at once, I also have to map myself. So if you look at the very top, right in this area here, right under where these measures are, these right here are location markers. And whenever I am sitting down to record a track, I map out my song. I never really sit down to record songs that are not like finished writing with, so it's usually pretty easy to go through for the one time and mark where my first verse is, or if there's a certain lyric that has a bunch of backing vocals, I will mark that there. So when I'm going through a recording, it is a lot easier to know where everything is, and especially when it comes to the mixing and mastering of it, that's double easy because then you just get to see exactly where you need to go. Some engineers like to copy and paste all of their choruses, so they will record a first chorus and paste it to the second one. To be able to do that efficiently, you could just send it from one memory location to the other. On the other hand, something that I do not like to do as an artist is copy and paste, so most times my choruses are a little bit different each time. Now let's get into all of these different color blocks on the screen. Each of these are considered to be called clips. These are going to be what you are using to manipulate your audio. That's going to have your audio file in it, and each little section like this, right here, is a track. So this right here, this entire thing, is a track for TC, which is short for T chorus, which is another thing I will very, very quickly get into. If you are going to be a producer, if you are going to be an artist who manages their own files, if you are going to be someone who does music, you need to be on top of naming your stuff, period, point blank. Period, point blank. There's no excuse. You need to make it easy for yourself to find what you need. I color code my stuff, as you can see. The top track, the sever, the instrumental that Zach gave me. I gave that a little color, and then I went to my main vocal, T box, simple, sweet. And then I went to the next one, T ad-lib, T low, T C, T double, T triple, T extra. It just keep on going, and to make it easier for yourself, you name it alike, and you put it in the right places, period. Don't get messy, you will regret it later. That is all I will say. Okay, so, my vocal stack. We were talking about how, as a vocalist, I have very, very thick vocals. It is not very common to find that. Many people will keep it as simple as to have 1 or 2 tracks, like a simple harmony or whatever. I will go all crazy because that is just who I am as a person. So, we come into here. Let's take my main vocal, for example. We're going to blow this up. So these colorful blocks here in my main one, don't pay attention to anything below it but the one I just blew up. In fact, I will make it even bigger. I will fit it to our window. So we look here. Can you make a random, educated guess as to why they may all be different colors?
Different takes.
Different takes. As someone who's an engineer, I live by and die for vocal comps, okay? As someone who has relative pitch and can hear everything all the time, I need my stuff to be correct. Yes, Lamont?
So earlier you were playing some urban young man over here, making a picture of our waveforms. That we're talking about this, you talking about reading waveforms and how this can help you.
Yes, so reading waveforms. When it comes to recording, you want to make sure that you have a healthy baseline. I could give you the number for that right now, but knowing that not a lot of us are on that type of detailed type of learning, this is what I will tell you. Those big spikes you see, like for example, Let me point one out. There's a big spike right here. 9 times out of 10, you want to avoid that. You can easily read your waveforms. You can see, as someone who is trained very heavily in engineering and all that other stuff, I can usually tell what word I'm looking at by looking at the waveform. So you can see very clearly once you practice and figure it out, you can have it all mapped out for you practically. So like you can even see in the differences from one of our memory markers at C, near number 41, all the way to B. You can tell that that's a chorus because it has different shapes than the thing that comes after it. It's not the same thing. And so you, when you are recording, or whoever is recording you, what they will be doing is paying attention to making sure they have an even, level playing field. Because if you're too hot, it will sound distorted and you will lose a bunch of vocal data. It's not going to sound good. If you're too quiet, when you bump up that, you are going to mess with the noise floor that is right at the base of every audio recording. It could be some fuzz, like some, you could be able to hear the AC or whatever, and you don't always want that because in every situation you're not going to be able to have the most pristine recording environment, period. My first EP that I ever made, which had a couple of tracks that they should produce on it, easy, I recorded that in my kitchen. And so it's like, you are not always going to have the prettiest, most state-of-the-art studio to be in. So you need to adapt, and you need to be prepared to work for the best quality recording. As an engineer, I know how to do that now with look for it, and I will tell you, you want to make sure that you don't have any loud noises going on, you're away from windows or whatever, because you can hear everything. And again, if you're recording too quiet, when you raise that, when you're trying to mix it, you are going to hear all of that. And you are going to be so mad, because 9 times out of 10, you won't be able to go back and record it. Anyhow, vocal comping. Yes, these are all from different takes, and I'm sure we could even, are they in here? They are. Interesting. Okay, I can even show you some of the, so here are a couple of the playlists that I have. That is what it is called when you create one track that has a bunch of different other tracks hidden within it. So what I will do here is, for example, let's solo it and find...
I tried.
So that's what we currently have in the main one. Now, if we wanted to switch that up, we could come into here and listen to this blue one. And, oops. So, it's all about being picky. And if there's a certain word that you said funny and you don't want to hop back in the booth and redo everything, go to your other takes, steal from that.
So real quick, Tiana, for our younger artists who maybe haven't recorded a whole lot, are we picking up the message that, one, you don't have to get it perfect on the first try, or the second try, or the third try, right? We do our best, and it's going to take probably multiple takes when you go to record. By Wednesday or Thursday, when you're recording your song, it's probably going to take you multiple takes, and we don't always have to start at the very beginning. And you should do the same thing when you're practicing. Right? You don't always have to start at the very beginning. We can practice and we can record it in small pieces as we go along.
And one thing that I love to preach to people who are just starting out in music and recording music is that all of this is fluid. Just because you have it written down a certain way, or that in your head you want this part to sound like this or whatever, when you get there, if your body does something else, especially as a vocalist, if you start to spaz out and you're doing a whole different thing or whatever, like let's look at these waveforms here. We can look at my takes and see how different they really are just by looking at the waveforms. These two are pretty similar, yeah? That one is a little bit different. So we can imagine what happened there and things that switch, and you can see different inflections on certain words and different rhythmic patterns. You do not have to do anything any way you do not want to. It's all about feeling it out and doing what sounds right. And that is why I love vocal comping, because it's perfect and you really just get to make a cute little puzzle piece it sounds exactly how you need and want it to without having to force yourself to automatically create the perfect take. Because that doesn't really exist. Now, my vocal chain, that is something that you will hear a lot. Ooh, my vocal chain, blah, blah, blah. It's all about when you have a raw recording, what are you throwing on top of that to make it sound fancy? I am a pretty minimal girl, okay? I don't have all the bells and whistles, you know? I keep it pretty simple. Traditionally, in the industry right now, it could be a couple of different plugins. It's gonna essentially be a compressor, which is gonna make it louder and control the quiet areas. So you don't have to go in and map it out yourself and, oh, this is too quiet, this needs to be louder. That's what a compressor does. Usually you would also have an EQ, which is to manipulate frequencies. You know, if you have a messy room that you picked to record in and you have some terrible AC going and you want to be able to try and filter that out, you can do that with EQ. Another thing, at the very, very top of my T-Box track, we can see some Melodyne. That is a auto-tune software that you can use to fine-tune every single note. Most auto-tunes are like you put it in, set the key, and it does a lot of the work for you. Melodyne, you have to transfer it in, scan it, and move each of the little ones. I'm sure I could bring her up and show you what it looks like.
What are you, millionaire? It's a very expensive program.
It is, it really is.
You can get a free version, but it doesn't do as much.
Yeah, what's your question? The song is on all platforms, my love. I will hook you up with that later. So, this is where it is. And each of these little blocks is a note.
So real quick, so I didn't want to talk about that because we were talking about, so reading audio data or waveform data is an important skill. I didn't know you were going to have MIDI data until you were pulling out the Melodyne. Mm-hmm. It's converted audio data into MIDI data. So if when you are in your DAW, you see those little strips, you're working with MIDI data. If you see the actual waveform, you're working with audio data. Audio is you're on the mic or you're playing an instrument. MIDI is you're playing an instrument within the device, right? Just know that. I know hers looks different, but all these DAWs are the same. It's a sequencer, some devices, and a MIDI editor, right? And you got MIDI data and audio data. I'm sorry.
Of course, no, you're all good. Yes, so that is Melodyne, and it is used to perfect parts that you couldn't perfect the first time. Now, another thing I will get into, just to play this for 2 seconds. If you pay attention to this side over here, the I/O section, that is your input output. If you look at underneath the input and whatever speaker, these green numbers, y'all see the green numbers in? Yeah. Cool. As you can tell, some of them are moving. If you look below the screen at T ad-lib, T low, T C, T double, I love to automate. That is something that you can do to make your mixes sound interesting, to make your beats sound interesting. It is essentially moving everything around for you. I like to automate my pans on my vocals. So it's like someone is walking around you the entire time. Stagnancy in music is something that I absolutely despise. Switch it up. It's, you know, you can switch it up. And so what I like to do to keep my mix fresh and nice and interesting is to move my vocals around. Now that doesn't mean get crazy with it and throw them everywhere. That means to, essentially what I did in this song was take the low and move it from side to side as the double was below that, also going side to side at opposite rates. So you still have even sounds on each side. But I could get into so much detail about all of this, but I have to ask all of you, is there anything specific that you would love to know about the session or how any of it works by looking at it? Cool. I just want to check in, make sure I'm not throwing too much at you. I know Pro Tools, when I sat down in front of Pro Tools my first day, I wanted to scream. I was like, I don't know what any of this is, I don't know what I'm looking at, but that's for engineers for you. So yeah, as an artist, I think it is, as an artist or a producer or whatever you would like to do in the industry, I think that to piggyback off of what Elisha was saying, since you all are so young, please, please, hold on to every bit of passion that you have for this. You might meet teachers or counselors or even family members that disagree with your vision. That is okay. It is your vision, not theirs. And there is a traditional way of thinking with older people that you have to do it the right way, which is go to school, get the regular jobs, figure it out. In the modern day, there are so many ways to map yourself out for success. I chose Full Sail because it wasn't a traditional music school, and I knew that I wanted to go to school for music, but not necessarily do the Mozart and, the vocal opera and all that stuff. There are options for you, and there are people that are willing to show you the way. Because in your life, you are going to be surrounded by people who are used to normal things and normal life and traditional. You want to be bigger, you want to do bigger, so that requires doing bigger, So please don't be a stranger after this camp. I am always here to guide you. I know you guys are still super young and you have some time to go when it comes to schooling and yada yada. But please, the only thing I ask of you is to hold on to and to nourish the passion you have for music. It is so pure and needs to be taken care of. Everything else can be mapped out in due time. You feel me? All right. Thank you so much.
That was my whole testimony right there, but I'm gonna keep it moving. I wanna make a couple of learning points for everybody in the room and also the folks on Zoom, okay? Because we're talking to a wide stratification of skill levels. For some of you, that was too much. For some of you, that was the next step of things you needed, okay? So here's what I always tell every teacher, student that I get in front of them, right? Especially when it comes to beat making. When it comes to beat making is composing, it's sequencing, and it's DAW skills, right? So you've seen at least 3 DAWs today, right? Almost everyone we get, I'm sure we identified the sequencer. When we got into the MIDI notes, we saw the MIDI editor, right? And then from there, how good are you at your DAW, right? So this is what I often tell people, Mario knows this. I'm gonna say, you need to do this thing, but what you need to do is Google how do you do it in your DAW. So we're talking about automation, right? And me and Kayla were just talking about that. You can automate every DAW, but if you need to automate, you gotta find out, how do I automate in my DAW? Okay, we're talking to the beat makers too, right? For our vocalists, you're gonna be learning a lot. You're gonna be learning how far away from the mic to stand, how close you wanna hold the mic, all that kind of stuff. You don't need to know everything, but know the stuff that's gonna help you. She mentioned compressors. Right now, you don't need to know compression ratio and all that, but you need to know, hey, I might need a compressor in my voice. One last thing I will say is, I know you know this as an engineer, right? They say you're not recording a voice, you're recording a room with a voice in it, right? I'll let you have last one on that one.
Yeah, so that really circles back into what I was talking about earlier about picking your space properly. I could talk about this for hours because that's what they did to me at Full Sail, but I will keep it short and simple for you. Avoid reverb. Like, I'm gonna put this mic down for a second and just talk normally. You can hear my voice bouncing around on the
on the rooms. We do have some reflection panels.
Which a lot of engineers like to put in their studios. Simply put though, you don't necessarily need it, but you do want somewhere that can cradle your voice. If you have a closet you can sit in, or just somewhere that isn't going to project your voice more for you. You want a space that you can just simply exist in, and then have your mic do the rest for you and pick all of that up. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, so amazing wisdom being dropped here, and hopefully some inspiration. So again, like Juan was saying, some next steps for folks. So we have a lot of projects kind of in the works right now, and we've got a little bit of time to kind of put some finishing touches on it, because here's what's happening, folks who are physically in the room. It is 2:29. At 3 o'clock, we're going to see works in progress from everybody. So you've got 30 minutes, stretch your legs, do the bathroom thing, get a drink, whatever you need. But then you've got to get yourself ready. 3 o'clock, right here, 3 o'clock, share time. So take care of your bodies, but then let's make sure you get to a point where you are ready to show people what you've been working on all day. Okay, it could be lyrics, it could be beats, it could be both. We want to see as much as you got at 3 o'clock. And our Zoom folks, we will see you again in the morning at 10 o'clock for I think some freestyling in the morning. Get ready to be creative. All right, we'll see everybody. Okay, 3 o'clock, you're back here to share. That means go potty, get a drink if you need to, and then back here to share.